Why is that sharing? Good afternoon. Just trying to figure out why this thing is. That's weird. All right, good afternoon. We're doing a little closing stream today, and if you're a part of Patreon, you probably liked that little video that we put out earlier because we are seeing a little bounce from that area. Now, if you are a part of Patreon, you know that what we were overall saying here, and the mic is on, just double checking that real quick. What is happening here is we could see that turn up, which actually would be an indication of us going to turn up into positive territory with some kind of divergence down here for a possible double bottom. We see the same exact signal on the Qs, just a little bit steeper, but we notice how big that 30-minute divergence is. These can really get those 2-hour charts moving, get some rejection in these areas. So some pretty cool stuff, because I remember live this morning, oh my gosh, can I not hiccup for 1 second? Live this morning, towards the end of the stream, we were like, well, we can look out for a little 5-minute divergence down by that daily expected move. And sure enough, what do you see? A little 5-minute divergence down by that daily expected move. Now, it's important to see, as we are seeing some selling come in, that this MACD right here is still close to that center line. And so we do have the opportunity to dip down just a little bit here. Let's see if we're able to dip down, and then we have to see if that continues. Remember, earnings can really put things on their head. So we're going to see if this turns down for a moment, see if that's able to curl back up by the end of the day. Remember, they don't want to convince people that the stock market's going up. They want to convince people to still have their puts on there, and we have a very high PCC level. So the dollar has come down dramatically. If you look on this 5-minute chart, you see how dramatic that really was while the market was selling off, which is hinting to us there may be some insider buying. Then we do have volatility making that move higher, correct? Making that move higher, but the 30-minute, we're starting to fall a little bit short here. So we're going to see if this is able to cross over by the end of the day. Remember, we can always see downside continued as long as we don't confirm these signals. So if you were part of the Patreon, you watch the videos, have those signals confirmed. No, they haven't. You don't even have an RSI above the center line for this one right here. So we could be piling up. Get ready, because we're here live for the end of the day, and we know at 2:30 some crazy stuff can happen. Lucas, would you mind taking a look at EXPE if you have a chance? Yeah, let's look at some stuff, guys. Let's look at some stuff together here today. What we're noticing from I'm just going to call it XP. Is this is curled up for a long time. So what this really looks like to me with how elongated it is, I probably could pull up an hourly or maybe even a 2-hour and see that close to the center line. So you notice it's not as good on the 2-hour, but we can see on the hourly, if that would drop down, that would mean, hey, maybe this needs to get that stronger base. Now, as it goes, you can see on the 30-minute, let's just talk about that for a second. We are curling back up. So everything here is saying positivity for your 30-minute chart. You're seeing bounce signals on the hourly, you're seeing bounce signals on the 2-hour, and what you're noticing here is we could drop down and see that pull on down. But as you go positive, it's less likely to go make that divergence. It's more likely to see some kind of higher low. So that's really what I'm looking for here. And in this area, you would say, hey, we have created some kind of cup. Is this a good enough handle at this point to head higher? I would argue maybe it needs one more dip down to really get this by that center line and then see that curl up. And even if this dips into negative territory, just know that if that turns around at any time, it is a higher likelihood with a MACD like this to be a slightly higher low. Doesn't mean that making the divergence isn't possible, or just seeing this fall into the negative trend and not making a divergence isn't possible. It's just the most probable thing when you see a move like this one up to an area where you really want to create that handle. You can see that dip down a little further, maybe react to a breakout area like this one right here. You notice this wick right here really lines up with that opening of this bar that was a gap up. Well, that would tell me, hey, this point might be important, and maybe we react all the way back down to 126.98 before we're able to curl back up into positive territory. But that is all to come if we cross over. Right now, you are positive in positive territory, which says most probable thing is to head up. I'm just saying the most probable thing, if you would curl down, is an overall higher low. Calling it rigged all the time makes you look childish. That is perfectly fine with me, because it is rigged all the time, if you didn't notice. Because we make money off of the rigged moves. We saw the dollar heading up while the market was heading up. That told us there was going to be a big drop. Hopefully you paid attention to that, because big drop. Now we see that the dollar is heading down at the exact moment the market started heading down, which tells you, hey, if this is going to be a rigged move in some way, then the market has that potential because there was some sort of insider buying here. That is enough of a move to convince me of insider buying. So if you're not paying attention to the rigged moves, then you most likely will be hurt a little bit more than someone like me, and that's perfectly fine. I thank you for your comment. I wish you luck in your trades, and I hope you have a great day. Yeah, if you're not paying attention to things like the dollar, things like volatility, things like the PCC, and you call yourself an options trader, I would highly encourage you to just educate yourself a little bit on it, watch more of these videos. You can ask me questions about it, how these things react when you're seeing insider buying and things like that. I'm perfectly fine to answer those questions. PayPal did have that good move. This is one of the ones where I was able to make some money on this morning. It was great, and congratulations to Short Fridays as he was able to make some on that as well. That is fantastic. And we see a big upward move. That's great. This is fantastic. It's great. But where are we heading to? Well, we quickly looked at the max pain, right? So there's multiple ways to look at things. Max pain right here is at $64, right? So I think it was 64, 65, or 63 to 65, and then it was 69 was the next call wall. So you would expect some profit taking in these areas, because that's kind of your wall right now, is this little area between 65 and 63. So this area is proving to be some kind of resistance. If that is going to roll over as far as getting into this move, this would be chasing if I'm doing it based on a 30-minute chart, daily chart, maybe a different story. But if I'm saying, hey, this needs to pull back, or at least pull back with time, move sideways, and then see that next move up. God, this is hard to explain to people, because some people just have like brick walls around their brain. If the stock market is going down, but cash is going down and people are buying stocks, that is not the correct correlation. The correct thing that would happen if people are buying stocks, if the system was working based on exact supply and demand and not based on algorithms that are doing things like short selling and other things to push stocks down, then it would not be rigged. But it is not doing that, and therefore you see dollars coming down. You see the cash going into stocks while those stocks are going down. That is not correct behavior. It's simple supply and demand. It is a rigged system, and it is a way to see rigged moves. That's it. I don't know why you're all in a toughie about it either. Like, the fact that I'm calling it a rigged move, who cares? It's something to pay attention to. You can just not call it rigged, pay attention to it, and use it. That's all I'm thinking. Like, I don't really see. Yeah, I sold it like right when the market opened, Onda. I don't really see why like people get so offended when you call the market rigged at all times. It is rigged at all times, and your market makers came out and told us that. It's not me. It's not me just saying it for no reason. A market maker literally came out, came out and said, "Hey, we're literally not doing things based on supply and demand. We're using our tools to put stocks where we think they should be valued." Keyword there is where we think they should be valued, not supply and demand. Oh, gosh. But that's okay. Not everyone can really not be inflamed by someone using a certain name, certain words. I know words hurt feelings, unfortunate, but that's okay. Dollar is still at lower levels while the market is at lower levels, seeing that bounce back. And notice, oh, look, the dollar's starting to creep up. So we'll have to see. Now, we could double dip into this. This is why I wanted to show the 5-minute chart. We could do a triple dip, right? We could dip down back into that. And guess what? We could hit that daily expected move and see that turn back around. Right, if we come down and do that, well, that would actually give us that higher low scenario as we are up on this 5-minute. Now, I don't like to micro trade and things like that. I just want to see if this curls up at any point. If that's able to curl up, boom, to the upside. The other thing we paid attention to in today's live, or in today's Patreon video, was the fact that NVIDIA was really selling off, wasn't it? NVIDIA was really selling off. We made sure to put this out pretty quickly to show you, oh, where's that weekly expected move? Right there. That is where the weekly expected move, like half of what option traders do is look at the flow, and they'll see if things are happening that shouldn't be happening in the price action. That's why I don't really get the like not believing anything's rigged or something like that, or it's not rigged at all times. It really is. So like I would manage your risk if I were you, because that's a downward move there, and we have a weekly expected move. We have a 68% chance for a bounce. Making a mark, I actually like that comment. Anytime that someone else has access to information that you don't, it is rigged. I mean, it is someone having an advantage over you. What I like to say all the time is they are playing chess with 5 queens, and you're playing with 1. And you have to figure out how to move around in order to beat them. Or we go with the trade like water scenario, which is very be protective of your trading, take accountability of your trading, and be adaptable. And that is a very helpful thing, I think, for a lot of people to hear, because it teaches you, hey, not only do I need to look at momentum, see if things are turning up, but I also have to pay attention to the trade afterwards and look for what is coming out tomorrow. Tomorrow we have 2 very important things going on. Well, first of all, we have a bunch of earnings. Those 2 things that I think would be important are AMD and Microsoft. And then after that, we do have Fed interest rate decision. Fed interest rate decision. I think that would also be another rock in our stream. We don't know how that Fed interest rate could affect the market, but what we want to do is more so take that information in and watch the reaction. If we end up seeing a big explosive move with those earnings, and then we see that just curl down into a negative territory or something like that, well, that could mean, hey, that Fed interest rate decision is going to be absorbed as bad news, and we might actually give all this up, and it was some kind of trap, and we can pay attention to, weirdly enough, the dollar that might hint us into which direction that will go next. But I still appreciate you guys being here. Anyone that hates the word rigged and thinks that the market is not rigged at all times, hey, that's okay. We have a difference in opinion. I'm still here because we're still here for the same reason. We all like the stock market. We all like to watch some charts throughout our day. And I think that's perfectly fine to have a disagreement. I would just suggest at least paying attention to those things, and when you do notice it, maybe take it into consideration as far as something to have a reason to take a trade. Because right now, this move was great. Now we can see this move up. We'll see if we come back down to create an even stronger base for like another 5-minute dip down, and we'll see what happens from there. The Qs adding back up into this, and this is why we pay attention to it as well. The options market actually pricing in a price point of 458.68 to the downside for the whole month of July. We're going into the last day of July tomorrow, and look where we are. We're below it, so we actually have a 68% chance to land right here or way up here by tomorrow. No, most of the time you're going to land somewhere in that area, but you're not going to see like one day some kind of massive move up, except for that one time we caught another rigged move that actually did take you outside of it, like well outside of it. I think it was like way down here, and then like in the last 30 minutes of the day you just saw it go boom like that. That was kind of crazy. AM Dizzle actually making some cool signals here. You actually do have that 30-minute divergence that we were mentioning in the Patreon video. He said, look up for us to come down to the bottom of our zone, because that would be very important. And you see you have triple divergence on the MACD, getting you very close to that center line. Now, remember this about technical analysis around earnings. Everything about earnings depends on how that information is received. And for the most part, you would say it's how that is received and pushed forward by the algorithm. So a lot of the time people will say, oh, this had a great signal, but earnings went down. So these guys can have great numbers, say one bad thing into the future, say like their projections come down or something like that, or anything like that, and the stock could go down. So just be aware of that, but you do have some signals that this looks like we have some divergence down here. I would just suggest, if you absolutely have to take a play around earnings, I am not playing AMD earnings. PayPal earnings I took as a fun play to take profit on the next day. But this one here, I would just really get in the habit of, if I have to plan earnings, I really want to downsize that position, because during earnings, you can see massive moves. These are actually expensive. It has a lot of implied volatility, so these options are expensive. I did check them. But for the most part, you would just say, hey, if that earnings is going to be good, it's going to see a big move. Let me downsize that position a little bit. Hope everyone's having a great day though. Hopefully you guys have had some good trades. Thank you so much for liking today's video. The SPY starting to roll over here on the 5-minute. Now we're going to see if this is going to be a dramatic drop. Is this some kind of trap? Well, we're noticing that the dollar is actually not really moving too much higher here. Yes, it is gaining some steam, but we'll see. That's a 5-minute chart. Right now, the 2-hour has just crossed, telling you the dollar is about to pull back is what the most likely thing that this chart is telling us here. Telling us there could be either more, if we see downside, there could be more insider buying. We can pay attention to that, or we have potential to see some kind of bounce from the SPY and see if that is going to lead to a reversal from this area, at least on a 30-minute trend. We'll see if that happens, but as of right now, we have not crossed up on this MACD, so I am not confident to say it. We haven't even turned up on the RSI, which is more of a leading indicator versus the MACD. So we haven't seen that yet. We've just taken back the price action, kind of still just waiting for that 9 to really carve out and start to point up again. It's a great day, isn't it, Matthew? We've got a great day in the market. The only thing that's a little worrisome, guys, I want you to be aware of this too. The only thing that's worrying me just a little bit is this 2-hour did curl up, but you're noticing that reaction down right away. So we'll see if this is going to prove to be a lower high, but that volatility is still green in positive territory. So that can still lead to upside for volatility. So I would just keep your eye on that. But as of right now, it really looks like the SPY wants maybe some kind of rejection here for the 2-hour chart, which if you look at the low here, you're not really having divergence at that point. The Qs, you more so have the rejection divergence, right? We see the low here and we see the low over here with those closing bars. So if the Qs can see a good bounce here, if we get those good earnings, it's telling you momentum's dead. So not only is momentum dead, but good news behind it. Not really dead, more just a sign of weakness in momentum. But if we get some good news behind it, that can produce a pretty solid bounce. Not saying that has to happen. I want to pay attention to the 30-minute first, make sure these signals make sense in here. As you can see on the 5-minute for the Qs, we're doing kind of what we talked about on the SPY, trying to test that daily expected move, right? Coming down to that daily expected move, seeing if we can get this to curl back up positive again. As that is curling down, we could start to land a little bit lower, so we'll pay attention to it, manage your risk in your trades, and you'll be just fine. Short coverings, we might see more shorts pile in or pressure on longs 30-minute before close. They might cover. We'll have to see what happens in the last 30 minutes of the day. For the most part, we just need to see what happens from here forward, right? We more so are people who are watching what is happening, and then we just react when we see the signal, which is what I'm prepared to do if this 30-minute crosses up today. That's what I'm really prepared to do. I'm prepared to make a play if this would cross up into positive territory. If the SPY would cross up into positive territory, that would be the time where I would make a decision with a possible double bottom, because, you know, some people would say, hey, there is no divergence here. This low kind of chopped it out. Well, if you really want to take it, the low isn't this. It's actually the low of this bar right here is pretty much the lowest point right in between here. And if you draw that across, that angle is down and this angle is up. So you do have it there on the 30-minute. Yeah, so more puts have come in. It actually was higher early on. So a lot of the time when you see the positive move about to happen, you'll actually see this start to cross through these lines back the other direction. Notice we cross to the upside. That's where you see people get overzealous to the put side. And then if that crosses back down, it actually means people are starting to buy those calls, aka the market might start to bounce. Not doing so well with all my trades. I have a huge chunk of cash that has now turned into long-term holds. Hey, as far as it goes, depending on what stocks you're looking at, things like Nvidia, things like this, they can pop at any time. We're just reading into it and making sure that the signals for a pop are actually going to prove themselves in the stock, because you could see a trap based on a 30-minute. But this could be an elongated trap, right? This could be an elongated trap that actually goes even further, right? We don't know necessarily just yet. We haven't seen that price action that really proves that this is going to go higher. So what you'd want to see from this area, first of all, we might want to change around our drawings just a little bit, kind of draw this across and see it more in a way that makes sense for what's happened so far. Now you kind of see your trap between two levels. You took out the stops on this one. Now you came below this level here. Maybe this was where the stops were there, but a daily expected move by there. You have to see if you can break out and get above that level. I would say this about these ranges for tomorrow, I would really like the market to end up in this level again, because then that would shift these possibly a little bit to the upside. As we did start somewhere around this area right here, that 545 level, 545.40 something. I would really like us to at least try to end by there today, but we don't know if that's possible. Maybe we just get that reaction down and then we see that come up with earnings. We'll have to find out. Earnings is going to be a big deal. Yeah, so if you want to find call walls, pretty much anywhere you can see Max Payne. One of the websites I like to use is just a Max Payne stock option Max Payne website. If you wanted to, you can type it right over here, MaximumPain.com, and then you just go to the top here. You could type something like, let's look at AMD. Let's look at AMD real quick, because that has some big stuff. So more so, you want to look at the first point where you see the spike, so 150, and then you also want to look at the tallest spike, which would be 160. So 150, if you can get above that, 160 looks like the next area you really need to get above. And then if you're going to see extreme bullishness, well, then 200 would be the overall price point. But for now, you haven't crossed above, so 150 is what you really want to pay attention to. If that move is positive tomorrow, that is where you can see some selling pressure. If you get above that, then I would more so say 160, but anywhere between 150 to 160 is where I'm going to be paying attention for AMD. But yeah, you can just pause it on that and go back a little bit, pause it on there. You can type that in, bookmark it, and have a good time. Sorry, I want to make sure Kyle, is on PayPal. Let's look at it for you on PayPal real quick, because this is what we looked at earlier today. I'll just show you kind of how we read into it. It doesn't mean it's bearish when it hits that levels or anything like that. It just means that is where resistance could be. It was between 64 and 65. So we are hitting that 64, but you notice if we get past that, hey, 65 is right behind it. And then if we get past that, okay, the next level to look at is 69. So right now you're just looking in this level, and look, it goes to that level and it kind of stops, right? So if we go over to PayPal, we're going to notice that once it hits that level, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a decent amount of the time. So you'll notice, what did we do? Well, 64 has held pretty firm, right? We're not getting closing bars above 64. So that's telling you the call wall is getting reactions by it. But if you can break through that, break through 65, you can see another really good move. I don't know why that just drew everywhere. Excuse me. Switch this back over. But thank you guys for joining me for the closing stream. That's right, we're trying to make closing streams more of a thing. I've set aside some time this week in order to do a bunch of them, so hopefully you guys join me more often. I really appreciate that, so thank you so much. No, expected moves are going to be the best support and resistance to pay attention to. As far as where you can see those reversals or like a take profit level, they still will be the best, right? So even AMD, as far as call walls and things like that goes, if we go look at its weekly expected move real quick, let me see here. So you might see on AMD that the level to pay attention to was 150, okay? But what yours is going to do is going to show you the options, what the actual options is pricing in with all the data included, not just showing you where that big spike is. So it's telling you there's people here that have the 150, so you could see some resistance there. But for the most part, once you get up towards 156 for the week, that's where you really want to pay attention. And that would make total sense to climb all the way back up, see some resistance in there, and then see some grabbing of liquidity, right? You want to grab some stuff in here, grab some buyers, maybe touch back into this zone. As you break out of it, touch inside of it, and then start to head higher. That can happen a lot of the time. But we are getting a confirmation of the 30-minute signals here for AMD right before earnings. Just remember, earnings is a 50-50 flip. Even how the technicals look, they look great. So if you feel like you have to take it and you really believe in these technicals for AMD, it's been beat up for a while, I would understand. I'm just trying to help you by describing some of my past history with doing things around earnings. Sometimes the technicals do go out the window because it is really just based on what is said or put out during the earnings. And therefore, if the news is bad, it's still that. It's pretty much like, hey, we're gearing up. Earnings, we're expecting a huge move. But if that's bad news, all of that momentum could be distributed the other direction. Same thing goes for Microsoft. Even though Microsoft has a decent look to it with a double bottom, right? this can just not curl up, and this could be distributed down, and that would be a very bad thing. But it's not saying like, hey, you can't take a play. You just need to manage your risk and know how much money you're. It's kind of like managing your position size at that point. Because if this was bad news, hey, you're breaking through the channel, and that's going to be awful, right? So do they want to crash down the market right now, or are they going to manipulate stocks to go higher? Well, it kind of depends on earnings for tomorrow, in my opinion. AMC seeing the divergence here not really playing out, right? We're still basing out. Look like a move higher can come. We'll pay attention to that. See if this 2 hour is able to rotate down at any time. It's still close to negative territory. That still can send you into a downward trend, just to be aware of that. We mentioned that in today's video as well. That's why I just wanted to mention it real quick. Volatility really starting to drop off. We got to see if this can curl down on the 30-minute. That would be a good sign that the SPY is going to see this cross up. Is baby girl screaming up there? She's yelling. She's been practicing her voice a lot lately. Nvidia 295. Well, I would say most likely not this week. I think we actually could see some kind of bounce out of this level. And maybe it needs, you know, we were talking about 5-minute divergences. We only got one little one right here. Maybe it wants to dip down one more time, really solidify that as a strong base before we're able to turn up or get a higher low. So you still have to be paying attention to it. It's and you'll see choppiness towards highs and towards bottoms. That's just the truth. You'll see by the tops, usually we experience choppiness, and by the bottoms, we experience a little bit of choppiness unless we just get a straight V shape. But most of the time, when you look at overall, tops that lead to pullbacks, we get what? Oh, a bunch of chop, right? We go up, we go down, we go up, and then we finally pick a direction. One bounce there, downward move, and then we're able to go up to this area, break through, and then you see the positivity. So you'll go through a lot of chop in this. If you wanted to look at the SPY around areas where we did top out for a moment, what do you see? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then we pick a direction. So you can see a lot of chop. And then we look at the bottom and you're like, oh, okay, this is almost, down, up, now down, up, down. Finally, we pick that direction, right? So we can see this for a little bit longer, but I'm really just paying attention to these lows as we are by the 50, which is great support. If that daily turns up, I want to be a part of that move, and how I can be a part of that move a little bit earlier is to pay attention to the shorter time frames around times like right now. It doesn't mean that this is a bottom for now. It could be. It very well could be as of right now. But we're not necessarily seeing those signals that are saying like, hey, yeah, we're ripping to the upside just yet. We're just not seeing that just yet. Upcoming earnings that I really want, I would think the main flip here is actually Microsoft, not necessarily AMD. I think Microsoft has a great double bottom, and Microsoft will affect Nvidia almost directly. So I think that would be the one to flip on. And let's go ahead and flip on that one. Let's see if the magical coin could get it right, because it got PayPal wrong yesterday. This coin's turning into it used to be right 90% of the time, but the past few flips, now it's like 50-50 or something. Oh God, we got to get a different coin, because this one's just said downside for Microsoft. Downside? Marina, you're leaving us? Hey, have a great day, Marina. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope your trades went well for you. And thank you so much for the donation this morning, that $10. Thank you so much for that. I'm buying, no, shut the fuck up, Short Fridays. You're like, I believe in the coin that's not as magical anymore. I got to go get the other coin out of my bag. Good. Oh, I'm still here. Okay. Just bought a few more Microsoft. I mean, when you look at it, the structure looks good, right? The structure looks good. At least from a, like, if you weren't doing options perspective, this would be a good signal that you're going to see some kind of bounce from that 2 hour. And maybe that's going to be a rejection divergence. That could send you into a positive trend on the 2 hour, which then, if you start to see that, you can start to curl up on this daily, and that could go right back into positive territory. Now, as we are slightly negative, you do have probabilities for a lower high, like we were trying to set up right over here, or an even high, right? Kind of a double top there, but that was able to go very positive, okay? So once we go like this, we just want to see if there is some kind of rejection maybe at those moving averages, but if you take them all back, it's actually a good shot that we either go test that high or go make a new one, so we'll find out. Mark's out? Oh, I'm sorry. Mark, I hope you have a great day. That's what happened to me with Google and Tesla, probably about earnings. Hey, thank you making a mark. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming in and commenting today. You like to live dangerously. I also. I'll stay. I'll stay. Now, these haven't confirmed yet, but these are some great signals to pay attention to. That's all I'm saying. Dollar's starting to go red again here. Volatility hasn't fully dropped off yet. The Dow really piling up like it wants to make that breakthrough move higher. We'll see what happens with the Dow. Looks like we could head up towards our channel line there. So we'll see what happens with that one going forward. Q's dropping off pretty good here, but still holding firm, not really violating the low at this point. Could this be a bear trap? Most likely, yes. The only thing that's causing it to throw me for a little bit of a loop is the earnings, right? The earnings is causing me to be like, okay, it looks like a trap, but if one of these companies just says something really bad, things can escalate to the downside. That's why I really want you guys managing your risk, managing that position size. I'm not taking big positions. I think as of right now, I do have some calls in a few areas, but for the most part, I think I maybe have $600 worth of, you notice how small that position is? I think I maybe have $600 worth of calls. It's nothing crazy. So I don't want people to think like, oh, it has to happen right now. This could be an extended move and we'll see. But as of right now, this is the great signal to see before something like that would happen. So I'm going to pay attention to it. I know how much I can lose in the move. It's $600. My regular position size, at least a smaller position to me, is like $1,500. Is like a smaller position for me. And so I'm going smaller than that by a lot, right? Because I want to make sure that earnings, I'm able to make money off it. If I'm going to play anything around earnings, I'm going to reduce the position size. That is just something, it's a little tip. If you want to take it to heart, that's fine. But you obviously, you do things your way. The point of this channel is just to kind of share with you guys how I do things. UNG, natural gas. Natural gas, does this trade regular hours only? Yes, it does. Okay. Now, the one thing I would mention here is you have a very, very large 2-hour triple divergence going all the way across on the MACD, on the RSI at the same time. So it looks like natural gas is about to catch a bid here. It already kind of has. It's already confirmed on this bar right here, confirmed. Now, when you do see those confirmed, some people say, you know, you do consolidate sometimes when that 2-hour confirms on like a 30-minute, because look at that 30-minute, it's up and overbought. So if we're going to consolidate in any way, that could turn down for a moment and then pop up, but that could happen in the futures, right? At this point. So what we want to see here is this a powerful move? Is a daily beat up, and does it look like it needs some kind of pop? Well, at this point, the daily's just about to cross. You have a 2-hour signal. You just don't have the overall signal saying, hey, I'm taking back this moving average to go test another one. But in this area, the 2-hour is telling you, hey, momentum's dead and I can go into a positive trend over time. So I wouldn't be surprised for natural gas to go up, test a 50 or even test a 200 like we did over here when you saw a triple bottom. Hey, boom, you test the 200. So something like that could be forming. You were listening while you were fishing? Hell yeah. You catch anything good? It really doesn't matter if the rate is cut tomorrow. If he is firm that no more hikes and high chance of cut in September, then small caps and risk assets will fly. And that's true. And I was taking a look at IWM, just looking at how AMC was with that divergence, trying to look at IWM as well. It looks like that daily could still pull back, but you're kind of just consolidating in this area. So once again, you're seeing more of the small caps start to consolidate now. And as of right now, I think the upside is with you towards the end of this with the 30-minute chart. So if you're looking maybe 2 hours, something like that, this thing has pulled down. You do have a double top divergence, so you want to be aware of that. This hasn't turned up. If that 2-hour can turn up, break through this little trend right here, this little bit of resistance, it's not the best trend line in the world, but if it can break through that consolidation, I believe that might be a continuation up towards 233. Yes, it is. Yeah, this one right here is. But there's a ton of small caps, so that's why it's the Russell 2000. Just dinner, but did see a bunch of baby sea turtles. And one time I think I was in North Carolina and we had to stop the car when we were there because we were driving down like beachside, and we saw, it was early in the morning, and all the little turtles kind of like go across into the water, and it was such a cool thing to see. I would highly suggest, if you ever get the chance, go towards a beach or something like that. If you know that there's, little turtles in that area, you can wake up early and watch all the little babies try to scuffle across into the water. It's so fun to see. And then on that same trip, we went to an area where no one wanted to go, and I wondered why they didn't want to go there. And there were stingrays, like massive stingrays, just swimming all around us, like 3 feet away from me. And I was just thinking, oh God, I don't want to get Steve Irwin, but RIP. But for real, I was like, oh, this is cool, but I do not want to go any closer. One of my fears is open water and things like that. So you can imagine I'm a little bit nervous when I go in the ocean, but I still do it. I'm still the guy that's like, I want to go out far. I'm just scared while doing it. Watch the seagulls eat them. Well, actually, so they wake up early enough to where like there were no birds around. Actually, it was very early, so it was almost like dark, and so none of the birds were out just yet. But like, I think within like 30 minutes, it's those late risers, those people who wake up late, those ones might be caught by some birds. They do it most of the time at night too. It's like really, really like we were seeing probably the last ones, because I think they do it at night. Like they go at night when the birds aren't really around. But yeah, anyone that wakes up late, they could have potential to be caught by one of those seagulls. So. Oh, I'm sorry, Kunik. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't like hearing that. Sometimes you got to shake it off and look for the next trade. Find out what you did wrong, see what you can do right this time around. You know what I mean? Bear trap or bull trap? I think this is a bear trap in this area as of right now. We have to see, because of the earnings coming out tomorrow. It really could be a 50-50 flip whether or not this is a bear trap or not, but I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I know my position size, but I am willing to put a little bit of money where my mouth is. So I've already taken some calls on a few different things. Wiped out but staying positive. Yeah, keep that attitude high. Just think of it as your journey, right? Think of it like just a piece of your move forward. I think that would be a great thing to do. Is just really think of it like this is just part of it. This is what I need to do. This is what needed to happen right now. It couldn't have happened any other way, right? I made those decisions, and then you have to see if you're able to learn from that in the future here. Kind of take it into your future trading. But I appreciate you coming in and sharing with us. I think it's a reminder that anyone can have a bad trade at any time that can really hurt your account, and therefore maybe you need to take a step back. Maybe something, and I'm not saying you, Kunik, I'm saying everyone out there probably has a problem with, hey, maybe I'm using too big of positions around earnings. Maybe I just need to stay away from earnings. Maybe I'm getting overzealous when things are hitting a weekly move without reversal signals. I don't know what it could be. Maybe my timing's off, right? But as long as you can always be like, this is just part of my progress, part of the journey, but not treat it lightly, you still need to take accountability and be like, what did I do wrong and what can I do right next time? I'm going to take an NVIDIA call. So NVIDIA, I just took it at the weekly expected move because I was like, well, one thing that I was paying attention to was what has the most implied volatility. Now, this doesn't even have the best reversal signals, just a flat-ish divergence on the RSI, flattish on the MACD. So not necessarily the best reversal signals, but this is what I'm playing just because the implied volatility on AMD was way too high. The implied volatility on Microsoft is pretty high, and that's making these cost too much for me to get into a solid position using a small amount of money. So I just wanted to maybe play a stock that I know that they want to keep at higher levels and things like that. So I'm going to play NVIDIA because it overall didn't have as much implied volatility. Therefore, if it did see a big move, those calls were a little bit cheaper. And then part of me wants to just take a little play on the spy for my fun account. When my fun account wins, I like to keep doing fun trades. And Denny, thank you so much earlier for joining us, for subscribing, by the way. Jack, you had to take two shots of Jack. Hey, there you go. Always look at the bright side too. Staying positive will put you in that positive loop. Don't get negative. Just like Kunik coming in here, we're immediately trying to put you back to positivity. Think positively. One thing that I was reading in my psychology book that I'm reading right now was I was really looking into it, and it caused a thought when I was actually taking my dogs for a walk at night. It caused me to think, and it was like, we're always looking for, you know, I wish I could have told myself that this was going to happen in the past so that I could benefit from it now, right? So I could just like go win the lottery or something like that. But more so, I started to think about that, and I was like, well, what if you just instead really imagine yourself as that person, where you want to be in, say, 20 years, and how that person would be acting right now, and then try to make those decisions based on that, right? Make those decisions, and then you can treat every single blip in the road as them telling you, oh, like, I'm supposed to learn something here. Like, you can kind of treat it like, I am making the actions that that person in 20 years would make at this point in time, but I need to make sure that when I am running into one of those roadblocks, I need to know, oh, this was supposed to happen, and why was it supposed to happen? I thought it was kind of cool. Just to more so put yourself in the mindset, not really manifest, not really fake it till you make it, more just how would the me in 20 years who has the nice house with the boat, with the nice family, what would he be doing right now with like a nice wife who treats him right, or you treat her right at the same time? Like, how would they get to that? Thinking to that standpoint in every aspect of life, and including stocks, I think it can really help some people out and being like, hey, what decision would the me in the future be making? Maybe at this point, that person in the future would be saying, hey, my account's not that big. Maybe I should take profit with this very good trade. You know what I'm saying? I just thought it was cool. It really struck with me, and I like it a lot. So we'll pay attention if this 30-minute is able to cross. We're about to hit 2:30, so we're coming up into a big point here. And everything's green over here, which is a good sign. Okay, 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding. All right, we got that 30-minute mark. Now we're in the last 30 minutes. Volume likes to pick up in the last 30 minutes, we know that, but it looks like a little bit dead as of now, so we could see some stuff towards the end of the day. Not a ton going on as of the first seconds here, so we'll pay attention. Last 30 minutes of the day. Hopefully everyone's having fun out there. Hopefully everyone's smashing that like button because they love the channel so much. And then we can click through. Let's click through a few of these. Apple curling up. Positive territory to be had there, okay? Now this isn't divergence. This is more of a higher low that's really close to the center line. So pay attention if this thing can break out. And then we'll look at that 2 hour. It's probably bouncing already as of right now, but getting some rejection on that turn down. So that's something to pay attention to. And then after that, Tesla. Okay, Tesla is breaking down to lower levels. Now remember, Tesla, we really used our sell zone, but it happened, and we said this last week before those weekly ranges came out, but we were like, wouldn't it be nice if that weekly range was right inside the sell zone? Well, the weekly range is right above you right there. We see that resistance come in. That is why I really like to use weekly ranges. Now we're dipping down. Looks like some kind of retest. If this curls up, we still have the chance for a better positive move here, but that would take you outside of a weekly expected move, so let's just be cautious with that. Now, this does tell me that Tesla does have a way to head down. If we go lower down towards this base, see a little pop up, ooh, you might have a left head and right shoulder. So let's just be a little bit cautious with Tesla. It does not look like the best trade for upside just yet. Amazon, we're just talking about the signals as of right now. Amazon on this downturn, we notice that we actually don't have divergence as well. Okay, you don't necessarily have the divergence. What you have is a higher low that could go positive if you see that and start that positive trend. So we'll pay attention to that going forward, but that's the main thing I see with Amazon. We notice that the 2 hour rejecting again, but notice it's getting closer and closer to that center line. Even though the price action is coming down, we're getting closer and closer to switching into a positive trend, so pay attention. NVIDIA, this thing has been beat up for a long time. So even if this does see a bounce, I'm gonna be taking profit relatively early. because it is so negative. If this had the strong base, it had to look like this, and we see that going on, yeah, I'm more confident with it, but I'm not confident in this overall big bounce to happen, a full reversal to happen. There could just be a whole nother trap waiting for us right over here, and that just falls through the floor. So I am playing this, but I'm playing it with caution and making sure to manage this trade the whole time. Now, the reason that I'm managing this trade is because you really just have flat divergences, which usually lead towards good bounces, but not necessarily full recovery. So I'm going to pay attention if that thing can remain positive for some time and see if that rolls over into negative territory or if it goes extremely positive. Maybe it even carves out a stronger base and I can buy another option for that. AMD, this one here, starting to turn around just a little bit here, but you'll notice the steep divergences. The only thing throwing it for a loop is earnings, but that is what you want to see on your MACD to see that dying out in momentum. We have the flat divergence down here, even a little bit down, right? Just barely down, so not really divergence matching up right here on the RSI with that MACD, but this one here is very significant. That is a very significant divergence, very close to going positive here. So if the earnings is good, this thing can see a big move. I would look for the top of this zone or even right up here towards 156.83, these highs up in here. Meta, looking at that one, this is cool because what do? You pop up, and when you do go positive on these pops from these lows, a little bit more probability to create what? A higher low. So that's what we look like we might be doing now. Now, don't be tricked by this. The hourly has rolled over, and that could send you a little bit lower to make that divergence before earnings. So we'll pay attention to that going forward for Meta. Microsoft, this one here, showing a great double bottom divergence right now, seeing if that can pop before the earnings. Just remember, earnings can be a 50-50 flip. So downside, I'm downsizing mine, so if you want to take that into fruition, that's cool. Knives 420, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you subscribing. Thank you so much. Hopefully you find something helpful. Now, Google is a little bit of a different story, right? It's already had its earnings, it's chosen the direction, it's getting this curvature, and if that curls down, that is not going to be a good sign for the stock. Just saying, that could be a continuation. Now, as we look at the 2 hour, that thing is saying bounce. So if the whole market bounces and Google reads that as good news, that thing can bounce up a little bit higher. Just be aware if there's weakness in that move, if that wants to curl back down. We'll pay attention to that when the time comes. For now, looks like 2 hour bouncing is the most probable thing. Until this 30-minute curls down, I wouldn't really say negativity just yet, even though I really don't like the look of this. This really looks like it could add up into, oh yeah, oops, right? So I don't like that look as far as that goes. Netflix was showing some good signals. Those did not confirm. Right? So this was showing, it confirmed, gave it right back. So it gave it right back, downside, it continued. And then you see another little point down here. If you want to consider these divergence here with this low, okay, now we have multiple point. We'll see if that's able to turn back around at this point, but it is not looking very good for Netflix. We'll see what happens. AMC with the divergence up here can roll over a 2 hour chart, so we'll pay attention to that. And GameStop getting rid of the divergence really down here, just a flat divergence, so you can see reactions, but for the most part, you would say, hey, this looks like the only way to head higher at this point is if you can form something like that for GameStop. So hopefully all of that was a little bit helpful for now, and then we'll notice we're still paying attention to the VIX, seeing if that can roll over. We're still noticing the dollar just hovering down at these lows for now, and we'll see what happens towards the end of the day. I spy AMD will get 72. You think 72? I mean, anything's possible with earnings. It really is. And as you have like gone to lower levels, by the way, with the earnings, the actual selling, if we sell with earnings, can be more dramatic than the buying actually. And that's just because if you have a weekly range here, this means like, hey, this can be used as support. Well, now if you get below that, this is where crazy stuff happens. This is where 32% chance stuff happens. This is where on a roulette table, you would see black 16 times in a row is out in this area. And so that is where you can see something crazy happen. Now you do have a trend line right below you, so we'll pay attention to that, but that's just a note and why I overall want to keep saying earnings is 50-50. The best way to play earnings, if you absolutely have to, is, in my opinion, downsize a position because you're going to make plenty if it sees a big move and manage your risk very tightly. SMH, We can take a peek at that real quick. This one was looking actually pretty good. So you see the divergence in the near price action. We're seeing it over here for the semiconductors. We're seeing that downward move, that tapering off just a little bit here. You notice the move down like this. Now we move a little bit sideways like this. Okay, awesome. Do we need to create a stronger base? Is this going to produce a bounce? Well, in order for a bounce to happen, you still got to curl up on this MACD. You have the divergence. You have the divergence, but you still got to curl up on the MACD in order to confirm that. That hasn't happened. You do have you have AMD and Microsoft both reporting tomorrow that can affect this. But that's what I see in front of me as of right now. If I go into a 2 hour, you're going to see 2 hour divergences a little bit there as well, kind of getting violated with the last downturn, but you do see it. So that means some kind of bounce could come, but it's still far away from the center line. So a lower high is still likely for SMH at this point, unless we start to see full recovery, daily start turning up and all that good stuff. Hopefully that was helpful, Joe. Would you nibble at it? I mean, this is one that I would think about playing. It is one that I like the look of, just so you're aware. But what I like to have anytime I'm taking a play, I like to have a weekly range. Because if I have a weekly range, it really solidifies the fact that, hey, this is an unexpected downward move. It got past an unexpected level, and you're seeing a reversal signal at it that tells you, hey, I have a 68% chance to do that. I have a 68% chance to do that. So if I'm seeing reversal signal as well with that, and this goes positive, well, then now it's saying I have a 68% chance to get a decent bounce. And if I get that decent bounce and it holds, well, then I could be back in a positive trend. That's how I see it with this one. If I had a weekly range for this, this is something that I would look into, yes. But I want to make sure things are confirming. If I'm getting in early on a play or anything like that, based on a 5-minute curling up near positive territory to see if that 30 minutes going to roll up, I know I have to manage it very, very closely and use a smaller position. What I like to do as well is if I'm going to do something with microstructure here and this curls up, that can curl up that 30-minute very fast. So what I like to do is do a very, very small position as like my first scale in. And then if I see that fully complete on the 30-minute curling up on this MACD, then I will add more. It will make the cost basis, it will make my average a little bit better there. But that's hard for people to understand. That is how I do things. And when I have told people that, they try to jump into stuff early. You're going to, when volatility is high, you see bigger swings. So you're probably going to make plenty of money if you just wait for things to curl up into positive territory, right? Being patient is overall what I like to say. So to form a long procession, I don't think I've ever looked at this one before. Okay, Iris Energy. I do like energy stocks. And this is, when did you scale into this? Trying to start a long position. When did you? Well, on the shortest time frames, you're seeing this, which is very, very good. Let me zoom out for a second to a daily scale here. Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. So this is within range of turning up into positive territory, first thing. This has started tapering. Let's pull down to a 2 hour, see what's going on there. You do have flatness down here on the RSI, flatness on the MACD, and you kind of had a rejection right there. So this does not look horrible by any means. What we want to see is, can we break through some key levels here? And I think that overall, maybe this angle is better, but I'm going to leave that one for now. And then I'm going to take this point over here and just draw that across and see what that looks like and see if I like it. I think you have 3 points of touching right here. I think this one might be just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit better. I think I like that one a little bit better. So you do have wedging, you have price really tight, and you can see this 2 hour curl up. That would help me out. Now, what would help me figure out if that 2 hours is going to curl up? If I have a 30-minute divergence behind it, and I do. So as of right now, it looks like, hey, I could see some kind of bounce out of this. Remember, a lot of the time when you see a reaction out, you can get that retest and things like that. But for the most part, this does not look like the worst setup. Be careful with it. If the 30-minute rolls down, it is still negative. So if that rolls down at any point, that does mean bad price action. And thank you so much, IMP Play. Thank you so much. You think we'll have more downside in the overall market tomorrow, Lucas? Good afternoon, by the way. Good afternoon, Luke. What a good name, I always think that whenever you come in, I'm like, man, he's got a good name. As far as it goes for tomorrow, it really depends on the earnings. So either there's more work to be done here, and this is going to be distributed down. We got tight. We saw that distribution this way, right? We got tight. We built it up for a while. That happened. Okay, now everyone's really, really bearish. So what do we do? Do we want to send the stock market higher? I think it'll be very dependent on those earnings. Earnings tomorrow will literally decide whether or not we're going lower or whether or not we're going higher. And then we have to immediately turn our hats back off or turn our hats around and be like, hey, now we have to pay attention to the Fed interest rate. You're welcome, mate. Thank you. I appreciate you. Bull flag on PayPal. As far as PayPal goes, as far as it goes, you could consider this starting to try to flag. I think you're going to continue to do so. If I had a good guess here, I would say this level is very important. If you're able to hold that and just kind of do the pullback with time thing, see this get tighter and tighter, and then see that break out, that would be good. What I'm more so looking for is my indicator to help me out here, because this stuff is very hard to play unless you're like probably a genius with microstructure. So what I would more so want to look at is, hey, I probably have a 15-minute that had a rejection here. We came up to that level. We weren't able to break through. We weren't able to turn up again. So we're seeing that pullback. So at any point, if this 15-minute can just base out, get closer to the center line and turn back up, that'd be a good sign. I like 30-minute charts. So if this turns down, then I would be waiting, seeing if this can hold up a little bit better, and then able to turn back up into positive territory, get close to that center line, treat it kind of like a swing trade. Swing trades on the 30-minute, a little bit difficult, but you can manage the trade very closely. Market maker will cause pain to both the longs and the shorts. That is true. Right now they're hurting the longs and they're trying to bounce it, which the shorts have not given up yet. Want to be key on that. So they're going to most likely, we're going to see a move that gets the shorts to give up a little bit. Now the VIX has not curled back down, but it looks like it's just about to. Makes sense. Thank you so much. You're my favorite live trader. Hey, thank you, Nazim. Disney as well. We can look over at that. We've looked at this a few times, and what we noticed down here was the rejection divergence that's leading up, and now we're starting to go positive pretty dramatically. That can pull back. We haven't seen a good pullback, but some of the best moves never pull back, and we just start to see those bigger time frames take over. Notice the 2-hour is going positive. That is a huge good sign. If the daily has crossed up, you do have a daily divergence on the MACD, not on the RSI. So from this move, it would make sense to see a solid move, and then actually you do have a lot of probabilities that that is going to reject. I just want to be clear with that. But if that's able to go positive and hold up in that area, maybe it's able to take back all of the moving averages, and then we kind of use that as support in order to then go higher. And we see this, and in the shorter time frame, we will probably dip down on a 2-hour down to the center line, see that curl back up. But as of right now, that 2-hour rejection is proven to show you something, and this daily looks like it might want to curl up. RSI about to get above the center line, so I would give it another day. But more so, I just want to see, is this base strong enough, really? Like, is this base really strong enough? Because of a 30-minute rejection divergence, we could... Paying attention to multiple time frames is a great thing to do. If that 2-hour rotates down, rotates back up, well, that would give you a solid reason for the trade, right? So that's what I want to pay attention to. But if I'm long on this and I see a big move before earnings and I can get out of jail free, I'm out. You know what I mean? Before earnings, I'm like, cool. If it sees a big move before earnings, cool. I'm good. Bought a lot of NVIDIA. Let's go check on that real quick again. So you're noticing that start to turn down, right? 2-hour not able to bounce yet. The 30-minute showing you, hey, I want to curl up, but I just can't. So what could be happening here, and I promise she's having a good time up there for the most part, or she's getting boogers sucked out. So sorry about that if you hear some baby screams, but those darn boogies, I tell you. And she's teething. She has like 3 teeth that just came in, and it has been rough at night sometimes. So what we're looking for here is just a simple 5-minute turn up for real. A 5-minute turn up from here can mean a lot, actually, because that can kind of say, hey, this has potential to be a slightly higher low on a 5-minute chart, which could lead to more positivity going forward, leading to that 30-minute to cross up for a bounce. So that's what I'm really paying attention to. What do? We go up, we test the top of the support zone, then we dip back down into it. We'll see if that can form. If it wants to go a little bit lower, test these levels again of 102.60 right at that weekly expected move. Hey, that makes sense. We make a divergence, and then we start to head up. So the daily chart, what other time frame is good to look at to get confirmation on what the stock is doing? Lucas, with the day chart, what is another time frame? So for daily charts, I like 2-hour divergences, 2 hours going into positive territory. Most of the time, when you see a 2-hour crossing up, we'll just stick on NVIDIA here. Most of the time, when you see the 2-hour crossing up, if that move is able to go positive, so if this were to cross up here, that daily would not cross, right? The daily would not cross up. But if it starts to cross that center line, you can go look at the daily scale and be like, oh gosh, that's literally right next to about to cross. So if that 2-hour can get enough steam behind it, that's why I really like paying attention to multiple time frames. Because if I can take a 2-hour play and that leads into positive territory over time, well, most of the time, once it goes positive, that daily is starting to turn up into positive territory. So I would say if you're really wanting to trade things based on a daily chart, you can also pay attention to 2 hours, okay? And then over time, what happened to me was I played things on daily charts. I learned how to use 2 hours to help me with daily charts. And then within those 2-hour charts, I learned how to use 30-minute charts to help me with the 2-hour charts that then help me with the daily charts. Do you get what I'm saying here? I use the smaller and smaller time frame to see what momentum looks like on each one. And if momentum is dying out on every single one, it's pretty much called my golden setup. It's in the course down in the description. All the courses are 90% off right now. So swing trading, or if you want to learn how to trade with divergences and catch moves like these ones, catch moves like the SPY is setting up here today, right? That 30-minute, we're seeing that. Ooh, we're seeing a good move here. So when you want to learn how to use these ranges, when you want to learn how to see divergence, when you want to learn how to see it on the MACD, how to pay attention to it, how important that center line is, positive, negative territory, all those good things, how to trade in any market, but especially in a volatile market, it will really help you out. That course is only $100 down in the description. Yeah, we can look at SoFi again. We've looked at this a couple times today. Just looking over at SoFi, we noticed the big move with the earnings that was given up. But look at this, it turned right back up into positive territory, okay? So as of today, it was able to turn back up into positive territory. You have everything above the moving averages. I really actually like this look for a slightly higher low. But that doesn't mean the game is over. We want to look at a 2-hour that is flipping up as well. So this is the swing trade signal saying, hey, SoFi is about to make another swing trade move, possibly to test this high, possibly to go make a new one. You are slightly negative, so look for if there's like 30-minute divergence in this move. That'll help you see if that's going to roll down, not be able to complete. As you know, making a cup and handle here is a little bit less likely as you've kind of violated the center of that cup. Dow jumping, we got the Dow jumping up, we got the SPY jumping up, we got the rejection on the 2-hour for the SPY, we got the Qs jumping up, we got NVIDIA, let's see what's happening there, not jumping up. So there you go. Tesla getting a little bit of a bounce. Maybe we need to go into a 30-minute just to see what these 30-minute bars look like. So Tesla, if this can rotate up, well, that could mean another good move is coming. We'll see what happens. AMD, is that seeing a bounce? That one's starting to bounce up, confirming the divergence here for AMD. Just be careful around earnings, guys. I hope no one's getting too overzealous out there. Yeah. Was that overall helpful, Portugal Paradise? Just say porra in the chat if you're disappointed with that analysis, Portugal Paradise. Had a case of the day trader itis, and I'm going to guess this right now for SoFi. I bet money that if I had made a weekly expected move, that's where it is. I would bet money it's within that wick. Yeah, and that's the big thing, is the initial reaction to the earnings was really good. And then maybe it's just the big players want to be in that. They shoot it down for a second, and then boom, builds right back up. It crossed right back up. AMD, seeing that positivity come in and has the divergence. We are going to pay attention to that for a second after, well, I guess that probably comes out a little bit later than right after the market closes. Apple starting to curl up, going positive. So as far as it goes for right now, you're seeing a lot of things saying, hey, we're going to make a move higher. Even the SPY confirming that as of right now. Let's watch the SPY for the last 8 minutes here. See if this confirms. If that confirms, I just want you to notice what is in front of you. You have a green bar on the 30-minute. It's still a short time frame, but the 30-minute that is taking back two of the first big moving averages here, the 9 and the 20 EMA. And then we have a curling up of the MACD. If that completes right there, hey, that is a confirmation. Notice that that goes away. So you'd really want to see that end with some strength, maybe even get above the last moving average. Then you can maybe see a reaction of some sort tomorrow. See if that curls up on that MACD, but you notice the RSI is above the center line as of right now. So you have all of the signals here that say this divergence might lead to a big upside move, some kind of reversal in trend to the upside. You have an excellent rest of the day. Thank you so much. Mark, thank you so much for being here. I love having you here. I love that you keep me in check, keep me updated with the dollar, keep me updated with making me look at oil and things like that, because those are things that I do pay attention to. I just do it not as regularly as I should. So I appreciate you being here. Tooth Fairy coming. Whew. We're like, she's got one big one sticking up right at the bottom, right out the middle. And then she's got the next one next to it like halfway through. And I think there's more because she keeps digging her fingers into the back and really like rubbing the back of her mouth. So I think she's got a couple more coming in on the side. It is, having a kid is like every week that you're like, oh, it's going good. She's sleeping better. Now her teeth come in. Oh, she's sleeping. It's going better. Ah, now she's having to eat real food and her tummy hurts or something like that. So it's just a lot, but it's a lot of fun. I'm glad that I have a great teammate. I really do. I have a great teammate in my wife, and she is fantastic. And she deals with a lot more than I do, you know, but I appreciate it wholeheartedly. I really do, because I can barely do it for, you know, 2 to 4 hours, let alone all day, every day. So what are everyone's hopes for tomorrow? What do you hope happens tomorrow? I'd really like to see the sentiment. What do you really like? Man, I'm paying attention to this. I hope that this happens. I would like to see that reaction. Can you check on Lennar? I've been scalping it for 2 weeks. Yeah, this one here, a little worrisome as it's kind of like walking up a cliff. I'm kind of scared it's going to drop off. As you look at the 2 hour, if that thing confirms down, ooh, that is going to be a very significant divergence. Doesn't necessarily mean it's all dead and gone. It's still pretty up there on the MACD. But if that turns down to the center line and curls up, hey, you can make triple divergence. But if you really look at the structure of this, I want you to pay attention to this level. Look at that level right there. Anytime you see a big clump, look for the lows, look for the highs. It's a very good thing to do. You notice that high right here? Hey, we broke out of that, we gap up, boom, goes to the upside. Okay, so that level might be important. So if you're going to pull back and see another move higher, that could be the level. If you're going to start to break down, well, then you most likely see a big move down like this, get some kind of pop-up, and we can see the head and shoulders that can form. So that's what I'd really like to see here, but I don't necessarily like the look of the 2 hour here. This is one where I would look at it, I'd be looking at the shorter time frames and be probably scaling in for a downside move, at least some kind of pullback. Yes, AIAX, yes. So NVIDIA going down, not only oversold, but I want to show you a key thing that happened right here. If you're part of the Patreon, you really got that video today that explained what was going on with NVIDIA and why we're paying attention to NVIDIA and the stock market at the same time. You have the SPY and the Qs both going down towards daily expected moves, making 30-minute divergences right now. And NVIDIA is in its last line of the sand for this week before it sees something crazy. So if they do not want to break down the market, the most likely move would be, hey, this is the weekly expected move for NVIDIA. I'm just going to tell you, it's the low of these bars. It's literally like right on it is that weekly expected move. And we see a reaction from there. So that tells me maybe they don't want to throw this into oblivion, really don't want to crash down NVIDIA. We'll see with the earnings going on tomorrow, but I would say the risk to reward here would say, hey, this tier could just turn up and show some kind of positivity. And that's just because what's happening on the other side of things? Well, I have the SPY with the divergence. I have the Qs with a divergence. I have the dollar coming down, right? I have the dollar coming down while the market goes down. It's flagging out right now. And then we also see volatility just crossed over on the 30-minute MACD. So all of this is leading me to believe, hey, we could see some upside in the overall market. And one of those stocks that they like to pump higher is NVIDIA. You're welcome, Diana. I hope that was overall helpful. And AMD is a similar story. It's just AMD actually does have, it didn't go to a weekly expected move, but it mostly just went and gave you some kind of 30-minute divergence, which is what we talked about this morning. If you were paying attention, we said if that rolls over, look for the bottom of our zone. Notice the bottom of our zone helps a little bit here. So I like to create zones more than lines to pay attention to. You'll still see lines for areas that I think are kind of key areas. But for the most part, if I'm serious about a support level, I'm going to find a zone. And this one was very, very large. It was a very large zone, but hey, I have to draw out what the market gives me on every single stock. This is what it's giving me. This has confirmed. Now we'll see if that unconfirms with earnings, right? So be careful around this one. But if it sees a good move, hey, there can be good moves across the board. We'll see. And yes, and thank you for reminding us, Leand Trade. Even though we could see a pop in the morning, and we'll talk about this in tonight's video, even though we could see that pop in the morning with AMD and getting some good earnings, maybe Microsoft getting some good earnings, I just want to point out to you guys exactly what Leand Trade is saying. We still have another rock in our stream. Almost every day of this week, you'll get some data. So tomorrow you will have the Fed interest rate. Let's go. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to, they do not change their tone very often. So I highly doubt they are going to change their tone now. Most likely we are just going to see the same higher for longer with the possible potential for a rate cut in September. I think that is the most likely scenario of what we are going to hear from them going forward. Now we'll have to see if they, speed up that timeline or extend that timeline. That will affect how people see things as of right now. But we just need to notice when it comes to rates, all you really have to do is keep these over here. Anytime those cross, which they're getting very, very close to crossing again, where the 10-year is higher than the 2-year, okay, that means that we're now uninverted. You don't have to pull up some crazy chart or anything like that. Charts can help you out because when you get more inverted, the stock market actually likes that and goes up. But when you start to uninvert, you see moves like this that go up in that ratio there. Well, the stock market doesn't like that, and that comes down. And we're getting very, very close to uninversion right now. So that's why you're seeing stock market comes down, and we're seeing the potential for uninversion. PBR, congrats on your family. Yeah, congrats. Thank you so much to if you're saying, thank you, congratulations for my family, but also I know that. I think it's an AMC guy, pretty big AMC guy, AMC Bigums. They had a rough time with some of their pregnancy, and we had a rough time too. So it causes me some sentiment there. I just noticed it on my Twitter this afternoon that he and his wife or girlfriend and their baby actually was born. And I just appreciate that everything went smooth. He even had some pictures up, and I'm more wanting you guys to say congratulations to that person, because anyone that goes through a tough journey, it is a tough thing to go through. And we went through it too, because Ari was born early, and they really scared us into thinking that she was going to be very, very bad. And it was difficult. The early days were very, very difficult, still difficult to this day, but I think she's just very smart. And I really appreciate the baby that I was given. Treat it as a blessing. Okay, so now that we have closed, let's just see real quick. I didn't look at the SPY at the end just to see. Ooh, it unconfirmed at the end of the day. So this is something to pay attention to. This right here does matter. You did not get confirmation of that move. That means that the probability here is still that there is work being done. So now we have to pay attention very early on tomorrow morning. We can look at how the volatility is reacting down towards that 1683. We're seeing that wick up a little bit. So we can pay attention to that from now forward. And we're seeing the SPY start to drop off pretty quick here. So this bounce is not guaranteed. We have not gotten the confirmation of that signal. We're seeing the SPY start to drop off a little bit. So right away, we need to go over and look at stuff like AMD. We need to look at stuff like Microsoft, see what happens with these earnings. We're seeing Microsoft drop off pretty good here. So we'll see what happens with that going forward. And Marina, thank you so much for the $10. Awesome channel, great people. Tomorrow always can be better. Don't give up, have a plan, never panic. You panic, you lose money. I like it. Are the earnings out? I highly doubt they were out the second that was, I highly doubt they were out the second that 3 o'clock hit. Usually it's like 3:15 or something like that, but I'll go look real quick so we can pay attention to it. Let us refresh. And let's just see if anyone's talking about Microsoft. I'll keep looking if those earnings are up and running. It says, apparently the earnings are being posted out there. The 4-quarter EPS is 2.95, expected to be 2.93, and the revenue was 64.7 billion and estimated to be 64.52 billion, and cloud revenue was 28.52 billion, estimated to be 28.72. So slight miss on that, but a beat on 2 of the things. People not liking the fact that Microsoft is going down, and this is where it overall was saying to me, hey, remember that anything can happen around earnings and things need to be downsized if you're going to play earnings. We'll see how this reacts by morning. A lot can happen by morning, but if you do break below this level, things can really start to escalate for Microsoft. Now let's go check for AM Dizzle real quick, see if that's going to come out soon. Cheddarflow posting that AMD had a highly unusual 2.6 million out of the money call. This is a very bullish short-term bet that expects AMD to move fast. Now we'll have to see if that's actually something to read into as of right now, but Microsoft showing people not liking the news initially. We'll see how that opens up in the morning. This might cause some bad things, right? These things did not confirm. So we will have those new updated daily expected moves for you after in tonight's video. That's right, we're going to give you those daily expected moves from this area, see if we end up down towards the bottom side of those moves with that Microsoft. But they did beat on 2, so that's interesting. All right. Oh my God, my NVIDIA puts. Yeah, NVIDIA making a downward move as of right now, kind of rejecting the cross up towards the end of the day, seeing if that pulls up, gives you some kind of 5-minute turnaround. You didn't get the 5-minute turnaround. This is why I'm very good with my positions, right? I knew exactly how much I was willing to lose here, which is very, very cool. Making sure to pay attention to your positions around earnings. This is why I'm smiling, is just because in the past, the younger me would say, oh, I'm very, very confident. This is a good look, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this has to go up from here. We're seeing this start to get down. Nothing about this screams rig, not necessarily at this point. Now, we do want to notice the dollar not necessarily seeing a big pop with that. So we'll pay attention by morning. We're going to go put out a video for you guys in a little bit. So I'm going to reload, take a good look at a lot of what's going on, remake these dailies, and then hop onto YouTube and try to post that in the next few hours. So I appreciate you guys so much for being here today. Thank you guys so much for joining as we have looked at some fun stock market behavior, see if we can head a little bit lower here, but maybe we need to wait until that reaction in the morning. So let's pay attention, trading like water, paying attention to position size around earnings, proving to be a good choice at this point for all of us here on this channel. So thank you guys so much for joining us today, and I hope you guys have a great, great night, all right? Peace.